Great Scott! If my calculations are correct, you are listening to this before your fantasy football drafts have taken place. I've been to the future, and those that followed the advice from the Fantasy Footballers Ultimate Draft Kit had a spectacular season and withstood many victories. It's almost as if Biff had given each of them a copy of Gray's Sports Almanac. I'd highly recommend heading over to www.ultimatedraftkit.com without any further delay.
Hey, it's Courtland Sutton, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, and you're listening to the Fantasy Footballers.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from Draft.com Studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Hello. How's everybody doing?
Fantastic.
Feeling a little sweaty, Jason?
Dude, I am worn out.
You are warm and you are worn out.
Both very true.
Warmed out.
Warmed out. Thank you, Mike. We got there.
We are now firmly in the regular season schedule, 5 days a week.
2 shows in.
2 shows in, he's warm out. No, look, we record this show very early in the morning. We want to get it up. We want to get it out. What was the phrase on yesterday's show? Zip it up, zip it out, or something?
Yeah, Dave Chappelle. Zip it up and zip it out.
So, Jason and I, we do workout twice a week. This is the first time we've gone from workout straight into the show. How you doing, Jay?
Dude, I'm not going to deheat. I'm not going to cool down for the rest of this show, which just means the takes are going to be very hot.
Oh. Maybe there is some sort. I mean, maybe a Foot Clan listener out there knows some way to cool your body down within 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah, if you or someone you know has information
suffers with.
It's called an ice bath. Yeah, I need little ice buckets right down here behind the set.
You are fogging up. Your glasses are fogging up.
Just one. You could go 1 bucket of ice, but you got to keep your feet in it.
Perfect. Give me an ice bucket, Brooks.
From now on, Jason plunges his bare toes into ice before every show.
Just the toes.
Just the toes. All right. Welcome into the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, the NFC North breakdown today. We have a great quick question. The Foot Clan voted on our quick question today on Twitter at the FF Ballers, and I'm excited to hear both of your guys' answer. This is an extension of one we did on the live show. We talked about running backs today. We're going to talk about wideouts. I want to remind you, you have 1 week to enter the Listener League. So if you want a chance, if you want to get your entry in, if you want our eyeballs on it, you email us, listenerleague@fantasyfootballers.com. Send something that'll catch our eye. There are a few spots available for the official Listener League, also known as an opportunity to lose to Jason in the championship game and become famously shamed.
I appreciate that respect that I'm
just conceding it now.
So very well deserved.
Yeah, you had the single worst roster I've ever seen in my life last year, and you won that league.
Yes, I did.
So we chose wisely for the Listener League.
Someone needs to get Jason a hanky. He is glistening.
I mean, you got to take those glasses off and wipe them. Oh. You have to do an official wipe. Because you are just did you do the cold shower?
Oh, I did cold shower. Yeah.
Hey, Brooks, can we get the soap opera filter put onto Jason's close-up? Where it's just a little bit blurry. Take him out of HD.
That's funny. Quick question, guys. Here's the question that won out. What wide receiver outside of the top 10, so we're talking about where they're being drafted today, okay? The top 10 wide receivers right now are Antonio Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, Odell Beckham Jr., Julio Jones, Michael Thomas, Keenan Allen, Devontae Adams, A.J. Green, Mike Evans, and then Doug Baldwin. Those guys, you cannot choose one of them. But what wide receiver outside of those can finish number 1? Who would be the guy that you'd pick as the best chance to finish number 1 overall?
I really like Jason's answer personally, but because he is going to give that answer, I wanted to give someone else who I think has a chance to finish as the number 1 guy, and that's Stephon Diggs from the Minnesota Vikings. And the reason I went with him is because there are not many wide receivers who can run routes at the level that Diggs can. Antonio Brown separates himself in the NFL by having quick twitch speed and separating from coverage, just getting wide open. Stephon Diggs has 4.46 speed. Last year in 14 games, he had 8 touchdowns. He also gives you those high ceiling games. That's what you need. If a guy's actually going to finish number 1 overall, he has to be able to come through with at least 3 just monster games. You're talking 150-plus yards and 2 touchdowns. Stephon Diggs can do that. He thrived in his new role where they moved him from the slot. They moved him to outside. He was getting short touchdowns, getting long touchdowns with the addition of Kirk Cousins. I think that Stephon Diggs actually has a chance to finish as the number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah, this question was actually a lot harder. If you go back and listen to our New York live show that we did, we had a quick question of what running back outside of the top 10 has a chance to finish as the number 1. That one, I felt like there was a handful of options. Here, when I was browsing through, I was like, man, this is really tough to actually have someone that I think – because if you're going to finish number 1, you have to have immense volume and talent, and those guys are usually going in the top 10. The one guy I think that has the opportunity and the talent this season is Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper has pretty much been the wide receiver 2 for his team over the last couple of years with Michael Crabtree there. They get rid of Crabtree. John Gruden has talked about how much he wants to center the offense around Amari Cooper. And say what you will about his down year last year, his drops. There were certainly things you saw on the field that were not good. But you can't say he's not a talented wide receiver. You know, he's a top 10 NFL draft pick, the number 1 wide receiver drafted in that draft class, I believe, or Kevin White.
No, Cooper went first.
Yes. So he's hyper-talented, and this is going to be his year to really step forward into that. Maybe he gets, up to 150 targets and has that opportunity to finish as the number 1.
It's not a talent issue with Amari Cooper or a physical ability. I mean, when you watch the highlights from that Kansas City game last season, when he catches a, 20-yard in route and then turns on the jets and beats everybody to the outside, it's just, can he overcome the mental hurdles of being relied upon? Can he beat the number 1 coverage? Can he catch the ball in important situations and ultimately the red zone?
Crucial for a wide receiver.
You would think, right? There's some talk of J.J. Nelson in Arizona, like maybe being on the roster bubble because he cannot catch the ball in training camp, and he's been limited to only being a deep route guy.
Yeah, I wouldn't limit that to training camp.
Also his career.
Yes.
Here's my pick, and I'm going to make a spicy comparison that people will boo.
Ooh.
Oh,
wow.
Oh, I'm ready.
The pick is Josh Gordon.
Boo.
That was a rustly boo.
Moo.
That was a cow.
That was a cow. I knew someone was going to pick this. It was just a dumb.
I want to read you a stat line. Josh Gordon in 2013, 1,646 yards, 9 touchdowns, catch rate of 55%.
What year?
I want to also read you another.
What year was that?
That was 2013. Okay. I want to read you another stat line.
So your argument against Josh Gordon is that he did it, but that was 2013.
No.
But
I just was curious what year that was.
Okay.
That was 2013.
I read through the tone in your voice.
He had 87 receptions that year. Okay, I'm going to read you another stat line from a different player. This player had 124 targets, 69 receptions, 1,313 yards, and 17 touchdowns in 1998. And he had the exact same catch percentage. And that player was Randy Moss. That's the season that gets Josh Gordon number 1 this year. It's not 87 receptions for 1,646 yards. It's 69 receptions, but he scores a touchdown a game.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's impossible for Josh Gordon to score a touchdown a game. Bear in mind, the overarching principle here is we are not picking Josh Gordon to do this. This is who can do it. From a physical ability standpoint, with what Tyrod Taylor is good at, if you throw the ball up to Josh Gordon, and he is on this season, he could score 15, 16 touchdowns.
Who was Randy Moss's quarterback?
In 1998, I'm not certain who it was in 1998. It could have been – I don't think it was Culpepper in his first year, was it?
Yes, it was Culpepper, right? Am I taking crazy pills over here?
Well, it was Culpepper. I just didn't know if it was in his rookie year.
Oh, okay.
I can tell you that in about 2 seconds thanks to the old internet.
Oh, that was Cunningham.
Yeah, there you go. Or it might have been Brad Johnson. Might have been Brad Johnson might have been in there too. But it's Randy Moss, and that's where you're going to boo. I mean, you're comparing him to Randy Moss, but that's the season you get. Same catch percentage. And guess what? 18.9 yards per reception for Josh Gordon in that 2013 season. 19 yards per reception for Randy Moss. That's the type of season you get from a guy.
You have to have big plays.
Has to be big plays. Got to be going and getting has to be touchdowns for Josh Gordon.
And I highly recommend going back and listening to the Philly show where we debate Josh Gordon, Mike and I do. If you want more information or correct information.
No need. Well, I think the correct information that you brought up in that show is that that I'm conceding is that it's not going to be 87 receptions for Josh Gordon.
Fair.
All right. I already told you about the Listener League. Let's get into the news.
News and notes from around the league.
All right. Some news broke yesterday during the show about Josh Doctson. We brought it up. Redskins coach Jay Gruden now says Josh Doxson's shoulder, quote, checked out fine.
I will take it.
No broken collarbone. No
I will take it.
AC joint devastation. So we'll see how soon he gets back. We felt bad. Josh Doctson literally introduced the show yesterday and was on the show, and then bad news broke during the show about him.
I'm sorry, Josh. I'm sorry.
But now it's turning the right direction since he's not on the show today. So that's good.
They don't call you the Fantasy Reaper for nothing.
Look, yeah.
Oh, I know. Courtland Sutton, watch out.
Oh, no.
Just take the day off, man. Go to the mall.
We have to send out a presser every time we got someone opening it up.
Go get a pretzel.
Go get a pretzel at the mall, Courtland. I would say, talking to Courtland Sutton, Brooks, is he on the show today? Do we have the interview?
Sir.
All right, there's a Courtland Sutton interview at the end of the show today.
Thanks for knowing what's going on.
Well, here's the thing. Oh, dang it is in the show notes. Brooks did everything right. I can't blame Brooks. It's all on me.
You can still blame me.
It's your fault.
Dang it, Brooks.
But Courtland Sutton was not only a great interview, but he seems like a great guy. So
yes.
Excited for the opportunity for him in Denver. Let's talk about this. Adam Schefter reporting, dun, dun, dun. Doug Baldwin may miss most, if not all, of the preseason. Per Schefter, the doctors are hopeful and confident Baldwin will be ready by the time Week 1 rolls around.
I will not take that, though. Hopeful. I had not seen the quote. I'm hopeful that you'll be ready Week 1.
This
is not good.
This is exactly what we said on the show yesterday. Before any of this news came out, we said this was news that he's going to miss multiple weeks with a knee injury. Because, look, if you're out there, why take a chance on Doug Baldwin with this news when you have other options? What if this extends into the season? What if Doug Baldwin is known in the NFL and in his team as pushing himself to get back faster. That can be a great thing if he gets back faster and is fine. If he tries to get back faster and he re-injures it, this could last into the season. It is an alert for me.
Yeah.
It is all of a sudden the tiebreaker on grabbing Tyler Lockett later in the draft starts to look a little bit better because who knows?
I was going to bring up for the quick question that if you ask this question 3 weeks from now, the answer would be Doug Baldwin.
Because he'll be out of the top 10.
Because he will not be in the top 10.
Fair.
I was going to say, yeah, or he's in the top 10 right now.
Right.
Yeah, good point. The Patriots have released
goodbye, my love!
wide receiver Jordan Matthews.
Well, he was IR'd.
Yeah.
IR'd
and going to be released with an injury settlement. Suffered the hamstring injury we mentioned on the show yesterday. Jordan Matthews, farewell. If I had to pick one of the other wide receivers to buy into, I am making the choice to go with Kenny Britt.
I am making the choice to go Philip Dorsett.
I paid for Kenny Britt in Dynasty today.
Wow.
$10.
Dang it.
Wow.
My $0 bid did not go through then.
You went in on Kenny?
Yeah.
I figured off-season fab, right? I mean,
no, I
got to go in on him.
It's a great point. I had the open spot because Jordan Matthews was able to slide into my IR spot, and I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll grab Kenny Britt because I already had Philip Dorsett. I'm just getting all the Patriots on my Dynasty team.
Yeah. Well, you and I are in the middle of discussing a Sony Michel-related trade, potentially.
Potential.
Did you know this, Jason?
I did not know. Let the people want to know.
Well, yeah. I mean, right now I said I'm the defending champion. I lost one game to Brooks. It was very...
Thank you, Brooks.
That kept me humble-ish. And Mike has LaShawn McCoy. I have Sony Michel. And I just said, look, I'm willing to entertain in a dynasty league, a trade that involves LaShawn McCoy.
Really?
For Sony Michel, but it needs to involve. I mean,
you really want the back-to-back.
I need to get something else back,
obviously.
And Mike offered me a 2. Not good enough for me. Not enough for me to tip over the whole dynasty, the multi-year thing with Sony Michel. But we're in the middle of discussions. We don't know where they're going.
Okay.
Anything could happen.
To be continued.
Yeah, I'm not going to try to influence anything in that trade. Oh, well, man, we don't have the fitness consigliere drop on there. All right, Quincy Enunwa.
Wow.
Oh, wow, I did not see this.
Yeah, I missed this as well.
Suffered an undisclosed injury. Not related to the neck injury, but Todd Bowles has said Quincy Enunwa has suffered an undisclosed injury.
Ugh. All right. It's that time. It's training camp. Whee!
Terrell Pryor, anybody?
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
I feel like
it solidifies. Excuse me. It would solidify Robbie Anderson at the top.
So I've had strong takes about Jordan Matthews and Quincy Enunwa and even Josh Doxson to a degree, but I do not want to win any of my hot takes with injury or suspension. I would like to see these guys on the field fail as opposed to that.
That's nice.
Jason used to be in love with this player.
Yeah, Brandon LaFell was always a good value for about a 3-year period where nobody wanted him and he would put up points, but he's not putting up points until he has a team. He's been released.
Yeah, Brandon LaFell released by the Bengals. Does your antenna go up when it comes to the hype surrounding John Ross?
Yes.
Oh.
For all of you out there, that's the new hype train. You're welcome.
This is on you.
You're welcome.
This is on you.
Andy posted a Reddit post.
It's just gonna keep
It
going.
just goes forever. Andy posted a Reddit post just asking for feedback, how we can make the show better.
Yeah, always trying to get better.
We got a lot of comments about the dangers of the old hype train.
Yeah, well, enjoy the new one. Toot toot. That's not the hype train. That's the might train. Things might work out.
I just want the people to know we're listening. And for those of you that live and work near a train station, no more fear. And if you're afraid of that,
well, if you live
I want to know. If you're really afraid of that, I want to hear it.
What if you live next to a toy train factory? Did you think of those people?
But you're not in danger from a toy train at any time.
That's a toy train!
I have nearly lost a toe to a toy train.
Why don't you tell us?
I keep my toes safe
We're
in
about
a bucket of ice.
We're about to talk about the AFC North and break it down fantasy-wise. But before we do that, why doesn't somebody tell me about Pristine Auction?
Hey, we want to thank today's sponsor, Pristine Auction, the best place, the absolute only place you need to go to check out and get some sports memorabilia. This is where we go get our hot signatures. Oh, Brooksy. Brooksy has put up the Bumblebee Antonio Brown signed jersey.
Best jersey.
Quite possibly the best jersey in the history of the NFL. Haters going to hate.
They hate us because they ain't us.
That's absolutely true. The Bumblebee is where it's at. Check out some
like
of the.
They wore those jerseys at Shawshank. That's what they look like to me.
Prison jerseys?
They're like, they got the prison stripes.
Well, we got it signed by inmate number 1.
Yeah.
Like if a bumblebee went to jail.
Antonio Brown.
A bumblebee. What did I say?
I think he said a bumblebee.
But you can also get fantastic deals on Pristine Auction. They have hundreds of new things up there every single day. Like yesterday, a signed Mike Evans Buccaneers jersey for $70, a signed Josh Gordon jersey for $68, a Jarvis Landry for $70, and check this out, a signed DeAndre Hopkins Texans jersey for $71. The deals and the steals are always coming through at Pristine Auction. Head over there, PRISTINE auction.com. You make a completely free account, and when you sign up, let them know that the Fantasy Footballers sent you.
Also, don't forget to check out the Ultimate Draft Kit at ultimatedraftkit.com. It's the absolute best value. We keep adding new stuff to it, but we never change the price. I think we're missing something there. But you can get it at ultimatedraftkit.com. We'll get you ready for the draft.
Let's get divisional.
Quick announcement. We're going to continue our divisional journey, but tomorrow we're going to take a break, and we're going to jump into a mock draft live on the show. Not only that, but by popular request, we're also going to each draft our own team. Sometimes we draft together in the mock draft episodes. Sometimes we draft separately. Tomorrow will be an opportunity for us to go head-to-head, and you guys can vote on what team you like the most. It'll be fun. So tomorrow we'll do a live mock draft. We'll get back into the divisional breakdowns next week and some new stuff. Today's the AFC North. Last year the Steelers were 13-3. The Ravens were 9-7. The Bengals are 7-9. The Cleveland Browns were 0-16. Nowhere to go but up. Before we talk,
lateral exists.
Before we talk about the Steelers, I do want to circle back briefly to that Reddit post. I posted yesterday, and I posted it with a purpose. I said, hey, look, you guys listen to the show. We've been doing this. This is our 4th full season. How do we make the show better? What do you love about the show? We got some cool feedback, right? Like, if you're a new listener now, sometimes we remember, we think that you've all been here since January, since we're a year-round show. And some people have said, look, make sure you mention the player name and position and the team a little more often because you're listening in the car and we'll be ranting about a certain player and you don't remember who we're talking about.
Yeah.
I was like, that's great feedback.
Or you don't know the rookies well. The Sony Michel trade that you guys were talking about.
Sony Michel, running back for the New England Patriots.
Yeah, rookie draft pick. Great point.
Who also
we're failing already.
I just want to throw this out since we were talking about a trade. He, I had seen, was not at practice this morning.
Yes, very opportune time to trade. Jason, Mike is teaching you how to trade.
I'm just reporting that. I mean, I think he got nicked up and he's not practicing.
This is true. He's yours for free.
Yes.
But no, we got a lot of really good feedback, like we were talking about with the hype train drop.
Choo-choo train.
And we always, we want to make the show better. We want to be receptive to feedback. We want to keep it what it is. But I just want to say thank you.
Yes.
There's 680 comments on there from the Redditors. So I'm giving a shout out to /r/fantasy football for breaking it down, giving us good feedback. And look, we're listening. We want to make this show great. We want you to win.
Yes.
And you're going to win if you keep it here all season long. You don't win it at the draft. You set the table. And then you eat from weeks 1 through 17.
No, you do not.
1 through 16,
1 through
Andy.
16.
Oh, okay.
Shame on you, week 17ers.
What do you do in week 17 after you set the table and
You celebrate
for
your
16
championship?
weeks
What are you
and clear the
talking
table?
about?
Look, if you're eating, it's just dessert as a champ.
You just get. Sorry. Jeez.
How
Go ahead,
dare
Brooks.
You
Go
just
ahead.
get to watch football without the stress.
Get out of here. You play DFS.
Here's a fix, Brooks. If there's ever a player that we're talking about for so long that you're like, man, these people got to know who that is, just jump in. Just jump in with that bold, abrasive
Bold
voice you
voice.
have.
All right.
Okay?
You got it.
And if you do it too much, we'll tell you to stop. All right, let's start here.
Steelers.
Oh, the Steelers. So much fire on this offense. Some offenses in the NFL, you want a lot of pieces. Jason just got a Juju Smith-Schuster bobblehead positioned on his desk so he can see the star that he has fallen in love with. But last year, great season, 13-3. We know Le'Veon Bell, he's at the top. But I'm curious how we really see the wide receivers breaking down beyond Antonio Brown. Curious to see and maybe discuss the Vance McDonald, Jesse James opportunity at the tight end position on a team that has had value with Heath Miller in the past. James Washington, the rookie, we'll talk about him. In terms of the offseason moves, big overview stuff, Martavis Bryant, wide receiver, traded to the Oakland Raiders. No longer a part of that offense. James Washington, wide receiver, drafted to replace him in that role. What's the headline for you when you talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers? Last year, they were the number 4th ranked offensive line, passing yards per game 3rd in the league, passing plays on the season 7th in the league. Are we talking about Big Ben as that streaming value, or do you want him all season long?
I like going in on Big Ben for a later round quarterback. He has top 5 upside. Yes, we really haven't seen Big Ben put together an entire full season. But last year, after the bye week, Big Ben in points per game was the number 1 fantasy quarterback, and that was for a nice long stretch. So, yes, I'm very interested in drafting him because you don't have to pay that much in the draft. You're not paying, Deshaun Watson, Carson Wentz levels. You can wait until the second half of the draft. But the headline, you cannot skip over Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell. They are absolutely the headline. And you have Le'Veon Bell with 3 seasons of over 1,200 rushing yards, 3 seasons of 94 plus targets, 2 of them with over 100. And that's why Le'Veon Bell is still my number 1 running back in half-point PPR. But you got to talk about the training camp. You got to talk about, is he going to be punished for the first few games, get off to a slower start? Jason, where are you on Le'Veon Bell? Is he still your number 1 running back, or have you made adjustments and said, well, there's a little bit of risk here with the contract situation, so I'm just going to go with Todd Gurley?
With the contract situation, it doesn't factor in at all to me. He held out last year and was awesome. The fact that his contract situation means that he's not going to be a Steeler next year, almost guaranteed. They couldn't come to a long-term contract. They're not going to franchise him for a 3rd time in a row. They're going to use him to the nth degree this year. I love Le'Veon Bell. The only reason I would move him down to 2 for me is as I monitor the health of the offensive line. I know they've had some struggles there in training camp. Then I might go, hey, if their offensive line's taking a step backwards because of injury, then I would go Todd Gurley. But I mean, it's all good. If you want to take Antonio Brown with the 1st pick, that's good too. David Johnson, Zeke, they're all in that mix.
You were talking about the 1st round, though, this year in particular. I think we were all discussing this at lunch the other day, just about it seems like there's just not a lot of misses sitting there. I mean, was that the discussion?
Yeah, I think this is one of the strongest 1st rounds as far as the top end of the 1st round that we've had in the last, 5 or 6 years.
And that's one of the reasons why I've chosen to put Le'Veon Bell at that 4 spot in my rankings. It's simply because if you're splitting the difference on value, Todd Gurley just got paid big money. Alvin Kamara's role, especially.
To be fair, Le'Veon Bell is going to make very large money this season as well.
Well, it's different, though.
It's a 1 year. Just saying, he's going to make a lot of money this year.
Well, any doubt that you had that Todd Gurley is going to be the centerpiece of that offense is assuaged by $60 million.
Sure.
And Le'Veon Bell's coming back, and everybody that contrasts with me on this point about Le'Veon Bell as it has distractions, isn't in camp, they say the same thing. They said, well, he always does this. I want to be clear. No, he doesn't. He did it once, right? We've been through this situation one time to the degree where we were content with what happened. I don't think that is setting the precedent for a guaranteed success throughout the year. Now, to the degree that he's number 4, yeah, he's great. He's amazing. They're going to use him as much as possible. But if you talk to injury experts, none of them think it's better to have extensive rest instead of ramping your body up for the season.
Right.
And we've had them come in and validate that point. So I do think that there is an inherent added injury risk to missing all of camp, to being in the doghouse of your mentally, to not being on the same page as your team. There is something, even if it's just a slow start, right? Let's concede he has a slow start. 3 games. I'll take Gurley.
It's fair.
Sure.
So that's where I sit on that. Juju Smith-Schuster, hamming it up at camp. James Washington, a player I love. Jason and we disagree. Maybe we can carry that love-hate throughout his entire career, Jason. But I love James Washington.
I think we can do it.
I really
think we can carry that.
I guess I feel like there's a lot of disagreement with the Steelers because I really do believe in James Washington's role. We've seen Big Ben make a lot out of a little. Not that I don't think Eli Rogers is a bad player. Don't think he's a great player. Seen him have value because of Big Ben and the passing attempts on this offense. I think James Washington's a great player.
Yeah, but when Eli Rogers had actual value, that was when Martavis was not there. Somehow they're 3rd in yards per game in passing, but I don't think there's enough there for a 3rd wide receiver. James Washington has the talent to give you a couple big plays throughout the season, but you're never going to be able to trust him other than maybe the matchup is great, so you throw him into your DFS
He
lineup.
means
James
more
Washington
in a negative fashion to Juju than he does in a positive fashion to himself. I will disagree with that.
Yeah, sure, but Juju was fine when Martavis Bryant was there last year, so I don't think James Washington is a step above Martavis Bryant. I don't think he takes that much away. The one thing you have to be careful of with Juju is last year his efficiency was not sustainable. His touchdown rate per receptions. Juju is a great player. I believe that fully, but he's not going to be the number one target. He's not going to keep the same touchdown pace that he had last year. He'll be valuable, but I don't see him. I've cooled a little bit on the ability for him to crack that top 12. But all of that said, as Mike mentioned earlier, James Washington, great option. Juju Smith-Schuster, great player. Antonio Brown, best in the business. Le'Veon Bell, unbelievable pass catcher. Big Ben is going to be a value this year.
Right.
And when you draft a guy late like that, look at the opening schedule. Cleveland is week 1. If they're holding back Lev Bell week 1, go Big Ben. Kansas City, their secondary's gone. That's week 2. Tampa Bay is week 3. Their first difficult matchup is Baltimore in week 4, but that's home Big Ben. So I like Big Ben as a draft pick. I love him in best ball, and I'm totally fine drafting him as my streaming candidate to start the year.
Good news that when Martavis didn't play that one game, Juju had a nice pace.
yes, that is very true.
Let me read this for you.
Are you going to extrapolate his one game?
Only for entertainment purposes.
I love it.
112 receptions.
Pretty good.
16 touchdowns.
Oh, very nice.
3,088 yards, baby.
Yeah.
So Martavis is gone. Juju's good for 3,000. That's what we're saying.
Put it in the books.
All right, Mike, let's talk about Vance McDonald and Jesse James. You and I disagree again on this point. I know we have Vance McDonald. We do have him in as a potential sleeper at the tight end position because he's far more athletic and more talented than Jesse James is.
Yes.
My concern is loyalty to Jesse James, the intangibles of Jesse James, what he does on the field outside of fantasy that will cause Vance McDonald to not get enough of a snap percentage and enough targets.
I would also throw in a smidge as far as the worries on Vance McDonald of health.
Yes.
He's already been banged up in camp, and he's never really been healthy.
Yeah, I will allow the concerns for health.
Thank you, Mike.
I cannot ignore them for Vance McDonald because that's what held him back this past year. Was
you can't do the Vance dance if you're wearing a cast.
That's true.
It's hard to get the Vance off over that cast.
He was traded very late on.
So you don't wear Vance in the Vance dance? There's no Vance?
It's a no. Yeah, I mean, I'm
just trying to figure out what the dance
correct.
is because now I'm thinking you're naked when you do the dance.
Well, I mean, you might have a shirt.
You're Donald Ducking?
You're dead.
Dude, but here's the thing for Vance McDonald. He was traded to the Steelers basically right before the season.
Yes.
And so you're a tight end. You're trying to learn things. And then he got banged up. He did have, in the regular season, he did, towards the end, have 2 games over 50 yards, which, again, 50 yards is ho-hum. But for a tight end, 50 yards is good. But then you have the playoff game against Jacksonville. It turned into a shootout, which was in his favor, but he had 16 targets, 10 receptions for 112 yards. There are not many tight ends in the NFL who can do that ever. It just with usage and actual ability.
You have to make your case the same way I have to make mine for Corey Davis.
Right.
The playoffs, baby.
Fair. But there's been a lot of hype coming from beat reporters because Todd Haley is gone. The new offensive system, they've said it's going to feature the tight end. And before Vance McDonald got banged up in training camp, they were saying he was already getting a whole bunch of targets. You have ESPN's beat reporter Jeremy Fowler saying Vance McDonald's going to be a big part of the Steelers offense. So when it comes to completely punting the tight end position and waiting till your third to last pick, I think that Vance McDonald is one of the better options.
Man, I would not want to be a defensive coordinator going up against the Steelers this year.
No. I'd be asking Lev Bell to release some more EPs into the season.
And my last point is for his contract, because Vance McDonald got a pretty hefty contract back when he was with San Francisco, and then the Steelers traded for him. Maybe they still can, but if they wanted to, they can get rid of him for 0 dead cap, and he's going to make over $4 million. So that means they want him on the team. They weren't put off by what happened last year.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think the greater point is when you join a team midseason with an offense like that, Todd Haley, you're not going to have a massive role, and then if you get banged up, it's even worse.
Ravens.
All right, the Ravens at 9-7 last season saw the emergence of Alex Collins in that offense. He was one of the storylines of last season when you hoped, and we all going into the season were Danny Woodhead fans, right? We knew that the role for Danny Woodhead would be big.
Yep.
And then Danny Woodhead was hampered by the hamstring.
To be fair, the first half of the first game, the
Yes.
workload was fantastic for Danny Woodhead.
Life was good.
It was a great 30 minutes.
No more Mike Wallace, no more Jeremy Maclin, no more Benjamin Watson, no more Danny Woodhead.
This is a brand new team.
We've turned over the pass catchers. We've got Michael Crabtree, John Brown, Willie Snead, all brand new. We've drafted Hayden Hurst and Mark Andrews at the tight end position. We've drafted another quarterback in the first round, Lamar Jackson, with the 32nd pick of the first round, and suddenly the train is rolling for Joe Flacco and how great camp is. And, you know, what does this team really offer you? Last year, 189 yards per game. That's what they threw for. That's what Joe Flacco could produce.
It's not ideal for fantasy football.
I mean, distribute that however you want, and you're not going to be happy with a single option on this team. Where do you find value in Baltimore?
Alex Collins.
Yeah.
Look, I will completely recognize the risks, right? He was not the guy they wanted to be the starter.
The risk is in his draft, is built already into his draft price.
Exactly right, Mike. The risk is why he's being drafted where he's being drafted. So if that's already built in, the upside is not built in there. The upside is that he's the legitimate starter for 16 games, a guy who was great last season. His yards per carry were outstanding, and his strength of schedule is easier this season than it was last season against the run. Plus, the biggest worry, the biggest threat to Alex Collins is Kenneth Dixon, who has been struggling with a hamstring issue, and we talked about this. We talk about this all the time, but a hamstring issue specifically is one of the things that has a tendency to keep creeping back up as the season goes along. So I think Alex Collins is a great value. If I can draft him at his current average draft price, I'm taking him every time.
Well, let's put that to the test, okay? Because I know he's right at the end of the third round, beginning of the fourth round, depending on your league format. He's 401 in PPR leagues right now. I think he's a couple picks higher in standard leagues. But let's put that to the test to see if that value's baked in.
Okay.
Are you taking Alex Collins ahead of, and these are the 5 players going behind him currently.
Okay.
Jay Ajayi, would you rather have Alex Collins or Jay Ajayi?
I would rather have Alex Collins. I know you guys are probably higher on Jay Ajayi.
Yeah, I would take Ajayi.
Would you rather go with your boy?
I love Kenyon
Drake or Alex Collins?
And 100% would rather have Alex Collins.
And then what about Rashad Penny, rookie running back for the Seattle Seahawks?
Another one of my favorites, but
his
got
ADP
more
is
risk.
plummeting, by the way.
As it should. No, I would take Alex Collins over all of those players.
I would take Collins over Penny.
So, I really do believe you've got a team that historically, the Ravens, in the Harbaugh era,
right,
their running backs as a team always produce. I mean, they've got, Justin Forsett came in and was great. Their running backs are valuable if you could pick the right guy, and I think it's Alex Collins.
Here's the last thing I'll say for Alex Collins is last year, 15 games, because this was another late addition to Baltimore, but in 15 games he had 973 rushing yards. And so if he plays 16 games, he's easily a 1,000-yard rusher last year, and you can get him in the 4th round.
Lamar Miller's going behind him.
Is Lamar Miller a 1,000-yard rusher?
Based on the way I feel like the volume's looking, to be a 1,000-yard rusher is not very difficult. What is it, 60 yards a game?
Sure, but you have to keep in mind as well.
8 last year?
You have to keep in mind as well, it was week 5 before Alex Collins started to get double-digit carries.
Right.
Okay. No, I'm not really trying to make a point against him. I love him. I think Alex Collins is a great value, and I think they want to run the ball, and I think they're going to have to run the ball. They were 11th in yards per game on the ground last season despite the turnover at the running back position and because of Alex Collins. They just don't have the money invested in him that guarantees his role the same way they didn't with Terrence West, because we were talking about Terrence West last offseason.
Agree. And
as a value.
And the other risk is Kenneth Dixon. Jason brought up, though, he's struggling with injuries, but Kenneth Dixon is good enough to push Alex Collins for the starting job.
What have you guys heard about John Brown, Willie Snead, Michael Crabtree, and the pass catchers this offseason? Are you excited about one or the other? I'm not a Crabtree fan. I brought this up on the live show. He's a player I'm sunsetting. He's a player that I'm treating like a Eric Decker or Jeremy Maclin this year. He's been traded to a team with 189 yards of passing per game, and I think he's been traded there. And all of his metrics.
He wasn't traded. He signed there.
Sorry, yes. But he's now arrived at a team that isn't a pass-producing team, and his major metrics all went down significantly last year. I don't like him.
He's still a touchdown guy to me. The yardage may be down from what we're used to. We're not going to hit 1,000 yards.
He's a 6th-round pick right now.
But guys like Torrey Smith had a year of 7, a year of 8, a year of 11 touchdowns. Anquan Bolden, who at that time was considered
old,
considered very old.
It's been a while.
Considered sunsetting. He had 7 touchdowns his first year with Baltimore.
Are you going to be happy with 7 touchdowns from Crabtree in the 6th round?
In the 6th round, if you give me 7 touchdowns and
600 yards,
it's not going to be 600 yards. It'll be around 800. If you're saying 800 yards and 7 touchdowns from Crabtree in the 6th round, then I'm probably happy with that.
Yeah, it's okay. I think John Brown also provides for the early camp
choo-choo
reports.
train, the toy train has been rolling.
Yeah, the train, Andy. We're going to need that hype train on John Brown because here he comes. Whoa,
And
John Brown!
That's
Blazing
honestly
by, guys.
of all the players that the toy train, hype train fits,
where I was going to go. I really hope that John Brown is healthy. I really, really do.
Yeah, I'm rooting for him. I will say this for Joe Flacco, this is the best wide receiver core he's had since Steve Smith has left. This is the best wide receiver core he's had by a mile. So there is an opportunity for him to step his game back up and be one of those 2 quarterback league late draft pick steals. If he can do that. Now Lamar Jackson is electric, and for fantasy because he's such a weapon on the ground. If he gets in, he's going to be a top 5 weekly option. So you got to keep your eyes on Lamar Jackson. And speaking of keeping your eyes on Lamar Jackson, we get to do that tonight. Tonight,
yeah!
Lamar Jackson will probably be seen quite a bit more so than Joe Flacco because it is the Hall of Fame game.
this is the I want to see Anthony Miller on the field.
Yeah.
I want to see Lamar Jackson. I want to see Hayden Hurst, and I want to see Mark Andrews.
Yeah, I was going to bring it up. The tight end position, Joe Flacco, at least in the past, we've seen it with Dennis Pitta, massive volume to the tight end position.
Dennis Pitta.
He misses. I'm not going to go there.
No, you're not.
But the tight end position, we've wanted someone to emerge. We wanted Max Williams to emerge. It didn't happen. What is your level of comfort with a rookie?
None.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
0.
I would agree. I'm excited. I want to watch.
If there was just one of them, I would.
Yes.
I would. That's why I want to see tonight and through preseason. Because if someone does emerge, maybe I look sideways at him in the 16th round. I mean, I just don't have a lot of excitement for that.
Fair.
Bengals.
Oh, farewell, Brandon LaFell. Let's talk Bengals.
Talk John Ross.
7-9 last season. I guess 7-9 was enough to keep Marvin Lewis around. Kind of a lost year. I mean, that's kind of there are no metrics that make me excited about what happened on the field last year for the Bengals. 7-9 with the 31st ranked rushing yards per game, the 27th ranked passing yards per game. This was a team that ran the fewest plays on offense in the entire NFL.
It makes sense considering
it felt that way. If you owned a Bengal, you felt like they were never on the field.
The stats that I gave, in my argument for Joe Mixon as a fire player, the fact that the Bengals only ran the ball 377 times is it's outlandish. It's crazy. Never happened in the Marvin Lewis era. And this team is going to be improved this year offensively. Getting Brandon LaFell out, I remember early in the offseason reading the reports on John Ross, hearing how players and coaches were talking about him. This is well before mini camps or OTAs, just the off-season work. I started sunsetting Brandon LaFell in my early projections, and I think getting Ross out there with AJ Green, a better left tackle, which is monumentally important if you go back and watch the film, getting the ball to Joe Mixon more. This is actually one of those sneaky offenses that I'm excited about, and I don't think that there's any buzz for the Bengals. I haven't heard anybody excited. The Bengals are like, I don't want a piece. A.J. Green's getting too old. The offense is bad. The offensive line is
Tyler
bad.
Eifert gets hurt.
Right, exactly.
John Ross didn't do it last year.
I think that these players are all representing pretty good values for where they're being drafted.
A.J. Green is personally, in my opinion, personally responsible for the reason why a top 5 pick is so incredible this year. Because if you're in the top 5, that means you get one of those 5 running backs who we all want on our team, and then A.J. Green is going in the back of the second round. If you can start your draft with David Johnson and A.J. Green, A.J. Green has had over 1,000 yards in 6 of his 7 seasons. He has had 7 or more touchdowns in 5 of his 7 seasons, and last year he was still able to get over 1,000 yards even with the lowest catch percentage of his career. And I put that more on the offense and Dalton than I do put it on A.J. Green.
I have an incredible stat, credit to a Redditor that I noticed this. It was about A.J. Green, and he posted it yesterday. It compares Julio Jones and A.J. Green. And if you look at 7 seasons, right, the 7 seasons that A.J. Green and Julio Jones have had, and you take all of their statistics, the career yards, everything, they have averaged exactly 166.257 points, fantasy points on the season for their careers. Both players, and these are guys that came out together. They're players that they came out of high school together. It's just crazy. They've had the exact same fantasy production on average over 7 years. I thought that was nuts.
Yeah, no, that is nuts. And to Julio's credit, he has more missed games than A.J. Green.
A per game basis is a little different, but where's the secret value on this roster? Is it
it's
is
John
it in
Ross.
a player like Mark Walton, running back, rookie, behind Joe Mixon and Gio Bernard?
I like Mark Walton a lot long term, but Joe Mixon is going to be given every opportunity to be the starter, and Giovanni Bernard is still there, at least for this season. I think next year the Bengals may move on from Gio Bernard, and then Mark Walton becomes interesting. But Gio Bernard showed that he still had some stuff this past year. He's still an excellent pass catcher. He can't be the guy, which is why they drafted Joe Mixon in the 2nd round. So Mark Walton isn't – he's not interesting to me, but it's John Ross, the draft capital. I was fully out on John Ross this past year.
You've changed.
No, the only reason I was out on him was because Marvin Lewis hates rookies, and he doesn't give them playing time.
You're talking about last year.
Yes. It wasn't – this was not my John Ross last year, which hopefully I was emphasizing, was this is not I don't like John Ross the player. It's I don't like his situation. He's gone to a team that will not use him despite drafting him in the top 10, and then he finishes the year with negative fantasy points because Marvin Lewis punished him. And now we know that we've heard that maybe John Ross was playing with an injury that he did not tell the team about. So all reports have John Ross as healthy. All reports have John Ross as still being the fastest man in the universe.
He's unbelievable.
And he's getting open and he's making plays and he's going very, very late.
And you have to keep in mind that if you don't remember the first 2 weeks of the Cincinnati Bengals last year,
man,
they didn't score.
It was
They didn't
great.
score a touchdown for 2 consecutive weeks. And that's when Bill Lazor took over as the offensive coordinator. He didn't get training camp. He didn't get to install his system with a preseason. This is Bill Lazor's first training camp and going through installing his system. So I like Ross. I love Mixon, and I'm staying away from Tyler Eifert because I don't believe he's healthy.
What about Andy Dalton? We've talked about
I'm
the
not
Bengals.
building him up this offseason again. I'm not. He burned me last
I
year.
think he's a great late round pick.
He was great when he was playing with Gruden.
He was a great late round pick last season. That's what we said.
Yeah. He was,
and he started his first 2 weeks horrifically bad. That was a swing and a miss, a strike. What do they call that?
A strikeout?
Well, I know it's strikeout, but like when you It's like
fool me once.
No, strike out looking or something.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's a bad reference.
That's a really bad reference.
I'm trying to make a baseball reference. Because it's a bad sport.
You need 3 strikes, Jason. If you get 2 strikes, you are still up to bat. You can still
Andy
make
Dalton
it happen.
had about 16 strikes last year.
We're not talking about bowling.
No, we're not.
Browns.
Speaking of 16 strikes, hey! 0-16. Hugh Jackson and company got it. Oh, no, they did not get it done last season.
I feel like the quote should go over because you talk about 7-9 was good enough to keep Marvin Lewis's job. 0-16 was good enough to keep Hugh Jackson's job.
It's all about, the momentum in the locker room, not on the field, Mike. They know what Hugh Jackson is, and they brought in Todd Haley.
They're going for
new offensive coordinator.
Negative wins this year. 1
can't do it.
0. They're gonna find a way. Life finds a way.
Oh my gosh.
Is that
totally different team?
Is that when we get to take
Yes,
the picture down behind Andy?
Honestly, the picture
This picture
behind
only went
Andy,
up recently.
That
wasn't
the
up
reason.
last year, was it?
Yes, it was.
Not during the season.
I'm just wondering, when can we take that down?
You cannot take it down. You can take it down when he's fired, which will be never because he's a genius.
Next year.
All right. Here's the summary of the Cleveland Browns offense. We'll paint a rosier picture than the one that we introduced.
I'm just being jocular over
Yes.
here because I think that the Browns are interesting.
It's fun to make light
You have to.
of those at the bottom because that's how you survive.
Just a totally different team, though.
Yeah.
No Isaiah Crowell. He's in New York. No Deshaun Kaiser at quarterback. He has been traded to the Green Bay Packers. New players arriving. Rookie quarterback Baker Mayfield, the number 1 overall pick, Tyrod Taylor, acquired to be the starter in Cleveland at the quarterback position, getting all the first-team reps. They drafted a running back, Nick Chubb. Draft capital was not something they were missing. Victories,
No.
yes. Draft capital, no. Nick Chubb arrives. Carlos Hyde arrives. Jarvis Landry, welcome to the team. Antonio Callaway. A lot of hype on Antonio Callaway.
Swing away.
Wide receiver.
Rookie.
Rookie. Look, there are a lot of new pieces on this roster.
Todd Haley, offensive coordinator. I mean, that's a huge addition to this team.
Yeah,
David Njoku, year 2, tight end.
year 2 of getting Josh Gordon back.
They're going 16-0, fellas.
No, they can't because they have Corey Coleman, Jason.
Well, they do right now.
Dragging him down. But let's talk realistic expectations for this offense. That's what the fantasy owners want to know. They want to know, what can I expect from Duke Johnson, who has been consistently a great pass-catching PPR running back. Now Nick Chubb and Carlos Hyde are atop the depth chart. Duke Johnson will seriously have a role, obviously. But
his role takes a hit.
Does it?
Yes. Jarvis Landry, it takes a big chunk away from Duke Johnson, in my opinion. He was the featured pass-catching running back. I think he can still be that. But they were moving him all around. I mean, Duke Johnson was taking snaps out of the slot this past year. That's not going to happen when you have given Jarvis Landry, supreme slot wide receiver, $75.5 million. That job, that part of your job description is now gone.
Yeah, I agree. Also, I think that Jarvis Landry is going to have a hard time replicating the value he's had recently. I brought this up on the argument against Josh Gordon, but if you take a look at rookie, and we're talking quality rookie quarterbacks who played all 16 games and were in the top 10 since 2000 in passing attempts, and you give that average along with Tyrod's career high, there's not a lot of passing work to be done here. I don't think this team is going to be in the top 10 in passing attempts this season. And if you just give them middle of the road numbers, like they're 16th in passing attempts, and then you break that up between Gordon, between Landry, between Duke Johnson, I am avoiding the pass catchers for the Cleveland Browns because you don't know who it's going to be. But their price right now is not discounted.
Agreed.
I mean, Josh Gordon is being drafted as if he's the clear-cut number 1, and he very well might be the number 2.
Let me make a counterpoint on the basis of the history of Todd Haley, offensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns. Historically, Todd Haley's teams have ranked high in pass attempts. 6th last year, 9th the year before, 16th, 6th. Rushing attempts, they've been at the bottom of the league in overall rushing attempts. Even in Pittsburgh, 25, 15, 24, 16, 15. He likes to throw the ball. He's always done it. In Arizona, in Kansas City, he has pass-catching weapons that – how would you rank those? Just in a neutral scenario, how would you rank Josh Gordon, Jarvis Landry, David Njoku, Antonio Callaway, Corey Coleman?
I would say very,
is that
very
in the
good.
top 5 total weapons in the league?
No, but it's top
amazing.
10. It's definitely top 10.
Those are unbelievable weapons for a offensive coordinator who there's no doubt here, right? Like in Oakland, where we hate Greg Olson, he's not going to be calling plays.
Right.
Here, this is like Hugh Jackson. You step back. You did your work at 0-16. Todd Haley is going to come into this opportunity with a chip on his shoulder against Pittsburgh and all the weapons in the world. Obviously wasn't a piece of acquiring Tyrod Taylor. I like Tyrod Taylor. Yeah, I like the pass attempt and opportunity for him. So I have a very contrasting take than the hate that's going Cleveland's way based on passing volume.
I agree. I think that
distribution of the yards and things like that could cause issues to me, but not passing volume. I think it's going to be different than what we saw Tyrod Taylor do in Buffalo because of Todd Haley.
It will be different. I agree. But the fact that Tyrod Taylor is also the rushing quarterback instead of trying to check down, he will have lower attempts, I believe, than when Baker comes in.
Right.
But that's why I said Todd Haley is the biggest addition to this team. It changes things drastically from if Hugh Jackson and company brought in Todd Haley to keep running the boring, slow everything down Hugh Jackson offense that he has talked about that's what he wants to do for years, then they've made an egregious mistake bringing in Todd Haley. But you can go back to, you want to talk about passing volume, Andy, you brought up the Chiefs. Dwayne Bowe had 133 targets, 72 receptions for 1,100 yards and 15 touchdowns in a season under Todd Haley when he was the head coach of the Chiefs. So that's what changes everything is Todd Haley and makes these guys interesting. But I will agree with Jason. You can't draft, even as much as I love Gordon, you can't draft him and you can't draft Jarvis in the top 5 rounds, in the top 4 rounds. It's overpaying when there are other guys going in that same area that you know are solidified in their roles in an offense.
Do you want Marvin Jones more than you want Josh Gordon, Mike?
Yes.
In all scenarios?
Yes.
No matter how your team's made up?
Yeah.
Jason?
Yeah, 100%.
Man.
That's very easy.
It's very interesting. It's very interesting.
Oh, no, there's a dynasty trade.
No,
this is very, very.
No, this is a bet.
Very.
This is a 2v1 bet.
Interesting.
Put
yeah.
Are you in? Are you in, Mike?
You're darn right. I don't back down.
Water bet.
Let me check my rankings.
I trust the talent. I trust Todd Haley to use it correctly, and I believe Josh Gordon will outscore Marvin Jones. And that comes down to the fact that they'll probably have about the same amount of total receptions, but I think Josh Gordon will do more with them.
I've got Marvin Jones 4 spots higher. I am very
confident with that. All right, we've run a little long. We're gonna fit in an interview here. We had the opportunity to talk with Broncos wide receiver rookie Courtland Sutton, a player that I think may or may not have fantasy value this specific season with Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, but has a bright future ahead of him.
Yes.
In dynasty leagues and keeper leagues, you need to be paying attention to this guy. And from standing directly next to him, he is a mountain of a man, and he's going to go get it in the NFL. So let's talk to Courtland Sutton.
You talking to me?
All right, Courtland, I want to start off because I love hearing, I'm so jealous, guys getting drafted. Your draft story. Who were you with? What was that experience like? Just the feelings of anticipation, and then you get the call. What's that all look like?
So Thursday I was really nervous because I didn't know what to expect. I was projected anywhere first and second round, so I had no idea where I was going to go. So I think I was really nervous Thursday. Friday, I wasn't as nervous. I was kind of just like, wherever I go, I'm gonna go there, and that's gonna be my new home. And so I was with my family. I had family, friends, literally all grandparents, cousins, everybody was there. And we're sitting in a little suite in a hotel, and my phone rings, and I see the Colorado zip code on there, area code, and I was just like, all right. And so I answered it, and Mr. Matt was on there, and he passed the phone over, and I got to talk to everybody, and literally my stomach was just like, it's like a feeling that you can't really recreate. You won't be able to recreate that. No touchdown, I don't think no game that I've won, nothing kind of compares to that feeling, just because like your life changes when that phone rings, and you don't know where you're going to go, but to know that some team wants to take a chance on you and they see that potential in you, it's awesome. So I'm glad that they saw that in me, and I'm ready to go show them that they didn't make a mistake in making that pick.
So when you get that call, did you kind of have the thought, like, I'm going to be working with DT. I'm going to be working with Emmanuel Sanders. Can you talk a little bit about your experience getting to learn from pros, like elite level wide receivers?
Man, it was crazy because a few weeks before the draft, me and Emmanuel had actually worked out at SMU, and I was just talking to him about what to expect when I got to the team, and what he looked for in his rookies when they first came in, and so to sit there and talk to him about that, and then to see I get drafted by the Broncos, literally first thing in my head was like, I'm going to get to play with E-Man. And then it was like DT, and then I remember that they got Case, and I was like, dang, this is crazy. And then I started looking at the rest of our class once like the day went through, and then the next day went through. I was like, this is awesome. And then there's a guy who went undrafted, but I played ball with him in high school. He was a center at TCU, and to be able to play with him as well, it's awesome. But to have E-Man and DT in my room, two guys who Pro Bowl guys, Super Bowl winning guys that play the game at a high level, to have them in my room and so accessible. I don't have to go like call them and be like, hey, what do y'all think about on this route? Like, I literally get to go run a route. They watch and they be like, hey, I think you can do this better. Or I get to watch them, and then I can say, why'd you do this instead of doing this on this route? And just getting to sit there and pick their brains. I'm always sitting there getting to talk to them, and they're not guys who act like they're too big to talk to us. We ask questions, they're willing to answer them. So to have them guys like that, it's cool. It's really cool.
So we know players, you got to toe the team line. They're team first. You got to have those personal goals. What are you expecting from yourself a rookie season?
Honestly, rookie season, all I want to do is just be able to come in and contribute where I can. I mean, I got two guys who are proven, that play the game at a high level, like I said, and so I can't just come in and say, oh, I'm gonna come in and beat the guy. I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna earn my stripes, and whatever way that is for me, then I'm gonna do it. If it's been that third receiver, if it's been that guy who comes in whenever they need a break, if it's a guy who's on the field with them at all times, when we go 11 personnel, then I want to be that guy. But I want to make sure that I'm giving myself the best opportunity to be on the field, and then when I am on the field, doing what I'm supposed to be doing to help the team win. That's it.
All right, man. I really appreciate your time, Mr. Sutton.
Appreciate you.
Good luck, man.
Thank you.
All right, Mike, do you have any candid thoughts of your own after talking to Courtland that, you've brought him up before as having potential value in 2018, this season.
Right.
But what do you see from him and Deshaun Hamilton, and how do you project that going forward for dynasty owners?
For dynasty owners, I love both of those guys. I think that Sutton can have a role this year. He's getting very positive talk coming out of training camp, but it's going to come down to touchdowns because it won't be a volume. There will not be high volume for Courtland Sutton unless something were to happen with Demaryius Thomas or Emmanuel Sanders. And I'll be surprised, actually, we can have a quick conversation, very quick. If something were to happen to Emmanuel Sanders, is it possible that they go to the more refined route runner of Deshaun Hamilton instead of elevating Courtland Sutton? Because Sutton and Thomas have a very similar play style. Would they want to keep the offense more balanced?
Yeah, I would agree with that because Sutton will already be out on the field. If you've paid attention to the Broncos camp, Sutton is on the field a lot. There was a couple days ago a full scrimmage, and they were coming back to win the game. Case Keenum, and it was I think last opportunity, and he threw a touchdown pass to the back of the end zone to Courtland Sutton. That was with Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders on the field. So Case Keenum's been looking his way, and I do think Sutton has an opportunity for some relevance this season.
All right, well, we'll be back with the mock draft show tomorrow, Friday mock draft, head-to-head. That'll be fun. We'll have the latest fantasy football news, notes, information. Jason, have you stopped sweating yet?
I just stopped.
It only took an hour.
Time to watch a Hall of Fame game and play best ball while you do it. Go to draft.com/ballers.
Goodbye, everybody.
See you tomorrow. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.